Hello and welcome back to the Radio Gamescast. As always, I'm your host Ryan. I'm joined by my lovely cohort of co-hosts Wyatt
Hello.
and Whoops Double Alex.
Yes.
This
I
is
thought we
getting
were
out of
gonna do
hand.
something.
Now there are two of them.
Now there are two of them.
You really threw through a loop there.
The same two that were here last time. The same
What a
two that will be
surprise.
here in the future. It's
We're
our
inevitable.
Games Club episode. This is a show where every month or so we pick a bunch of games and play them and talk about them. And that's it. That's the concept. I hope you enjoy. Let's jump in.
I think
with...
we certainly did this time.
Yeah, Wyatt, you have opted to cover your game first, so why don't you introduce
Listen,
us?
there was a bunch of silence when you asked, so I was like, "This is getting real awkward. I'll just go for it."
Our conversational savior.
So I picked Roboquest. This is a first-person shooter roguelite. It feels very like modern Doom, I would say, in terms of like the area of FPS you should be thinking about. I picked this one because I've heard a lot of good things about it, but I'll be honest with you, every time I like saw a gameplay or a trailer of it, it was always in that first like desert canyon area, and I'm like, I don't know. This looks a little
Samey.
dull, a little samey to me. And then I played it, and then I realized what an idiot I was because this game.
That's only for like
rules.
5 minutes.
Yeah,
Looks like
this game rules. And a lot of the
yeah.
reason it does is kind of difficult to explain because the feel is just so good. You could tell that they just set up a little dev room with the character controller, and then they were just running around there for hours trying to like get just the right feel. And I think for the most part, outside of like one or two tiny little edge cases, they've like nailed it. It just feels so good to play. The only issues that I would really have in terms of the feel is I feel like the sprinting is a little bit floaty. Doesn't quite have that kind of oomph that you want when you're sprinting around. And I also think some of the weapons sounds aren't great. For example, I was over the moon when I learned that this game has a double-bladed chainsaw. I'm like, that is the coolest thing I've ever heard in my life. The sound that comes out of it, kind of lame, not gonna lie. But outside of that, I think it's so much fun to play. I feel like it really gets that roguelike loop just like down perfect, and it feels incredibly polished.
Oh,
Very cool.
absolutely.
Yeah,
It's,
this
it's very much the it's like a slightly smaller in scale Doom, but no smaller in scale with how good it feels to shoot the guns and move around and dodge enemies and wreak havoc.
this
I
one
mean,
really,
I talked about ages ago on the show a game called Gunfire Reborn, which has been out for ages at this point and is still getting DLC. This feels like that, but with robots, and that's a very big compliment because Gunfire Reborn is really, really good. It's another cool game to look into for fans of this type of like roguelike shooter genre.
yeah, this one really caught me kind of by surprise. I hadn't heard of it before you picked it, and kind of just looking on the Xbox page, it doesn't. It doesn't like it didn't immediately like hit me exactly. With
It's
how
very
much it was going to
unassuming.
hook me.
It's very
And
unassuming on its surface.
Yeah. And immediately I was like, oh, this combat can be pretty buttery smooth and a lot of
Oh
fun.
yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can tell because this was an early access game for like a year, something like that. Or no, it was like I think
It was
the
a little
early
longer than
access
that, I
was
think.
2020, and then I think it's 1.0 was 2023. So it's been a good 3 years in early access, and I feel like sometimes with early access games, it feels like it's just sitting in early access for too long, and it feels like there are so many little things they haven't worked out yet. But you can tell the level of like polish and attention that this was given during that period. It's very similar to how Hades came out, where like that was also in early access for a little bit. But again, you can tell the amount of polish that went into it both before and after early access. Same thing here. Like everything feels really well like considered, and like they actually had the time to sit down and kind of tweak upgrades and weapons so that they feel like impactful and fun, and like you're actually improving your character during a run. I really like the little breaks in between, the way that they handle that. There's like optional routes that you can take, which are pretty interesting. Yeah, no,
I also
it's
found
almost
a
like,
hidden class behind a waterfall, which is really cool.
oh yeah,
Oh,
there's a lot of one thing about these roguelikes is that there's like unraveling mysteries as you go along. Like there's the guy in that break room in the first area where you have to give him 5 of the little like orange data pads, I think they're called,
yeah.
something like that, which I haven't gotten to yet because I'm really bad at
Mhm.
remembering to look for data pads because I'm having too much fun. Um, but it does have a lot of those like little secrets that just kind of rewards your curiosity as well. Again, it's kind of a weird game to talk about because it's very straightforward. It doesn't try for too many bells and whistles. It just tries to like do what it does really well without
Oh
being
yeah.
like overly flashy about it. You know what I mean? It's just like incredibly solid.
Yeah, it does have some really fun weapons too. Like one of
Mhm.
the favorites that I found is I got a bow that had like the ricochet affix on it,
Oh
and
yes.
Mhm.
whenever I shot
Mhm.
it, it would ricochet to a bunch of things and do tons of damage.
I had
There's
a
like a
sling that had the ricochet on it, which was a lot of
yeah,
fun.
same. I found one of those.
I
I
got a
think
bow that was explosive, so I got Warframe flashbacks.
nice, very good. I think
There's a great one that I found where if you deal elemental damage and there's, I think, like if they fall below 8% of their health, they just explode early instead of going
Oh,
Ooh.
down to
that's
the full
awesome.
health bar.
rad.
Oh, is
So if
that
you
one of the
so if
like
you
data pad looking
It's one
modifier
of the
things that you can
upgrades.
get?
It's one of the
Oh,
upgrades you
upgrades.
get, and not at the home base, but the ones you pick up during a run. So you pair that with like a flamethrower. Oh, it's
Mhm.
all over. It's all
Yeah,
over.
really fun.
In my playtime,
Any
I
of you
haven't
guys?
yet found like a good moment to actually start to get into some of those. I've just focused on upgrading weapons so far. I wanna find some spicy thing that I can work around with elemental
That
stuff
is
though.
almost like the weapons are so much fun that sometimes at least in my experience, sometimes I forget to the other upgrades because I just want to see what cool weapon I get next. So I kind of like forget the other upgrades sometimes
Hmm.
because they're not as
Anybody?
immediately like satisfying. But once you kind of take the time to figure out what those little upgrades can actually do to your weapons, you definitely start to pay attention to them a lot more because they're not as flashy at the outset, but over time they really start to stack and do some just absolutely insane shit.
Yeah, I kept getting one that was using like a Tesla rifle was my main gun. Then I got a thing that made it so every third shot would ricochet and like do more
Yep.
damage, and I got a thing that made that happen every like it was every fourth shot, and then every third shot was an upgrade, and so started
Getting
just
the
Oh.
kind of
stacking on top
weapons,
of each other.
I forget what it's called, but it's basically like a giant beam rifle, right? And
Yeah,
if you get that upgrade where it's like the like damage number starts to raise the more you hold down the trigger, basically. It just like stacks this insane amount of damage. It's so cool.
yeah, I'm sure that one's really
When
fun.
I
I had a lot of fun with the one that's there's a sentry turret that you can get that you just
Oh
like
yeah, the kangaroo
cart
gun.
around holding it in
apparently
your
I just
hand, and
didn't
you
play
can
this
shoot
game
it, and then
enough.
you can like right click and it drops down a turret that you can then fight
It looks
around and whatnot.
exactly
That was really
looks
fun.
exactly like a level 2 engineer turret from Team Fortress 2. It looks
Hmm.
exactly the same. It's great. Um, no, they just like I said, it's not overly fancy, but like they have really cool upgrades that feel very meaningful, and like you can make a really interesting build with that. Just a ton of wacky weapons, which is almost where like the Borderlands comparison comes in because it's got that kind of Borderlandsy. I don't want to call it cell shaded, but it's very like
This definitely
cartoony.
scratched that itch for me.
Yeah, like the looter RPG shooter
Hmm.
thing itch.
Especially when you get certain upgrades like, oh, if every 5 seconds when you reload your gun, instead of putting a new magazine in it, you just huck it at someone and it explodes.
That's great. I didn't see that one.
Yeah, that's one thing that in Borderlands too. It's like I think it's like the Tediore weapons or
Yeah,
something.
yeah.
You just
You throw them and they
toss
like
them and they
run at
explode.
people.
Yeah, I think for people who like, you know, really liked Borderlands 2 and not 3 so much, I feel like this would be a good alternative for them because you get so many different crazy weapons that then have different affixes as you go along. That I feel like it kind of scratches that itch for a lot of people.
It's also got really good feedback for hitting things, but that's always like a thing that I look for in shooters is like, does the act of shooting a thing feel good? Which, out of context, that sense is kind of insane, but still. I think there's a lot of like, especially indie games that just struggle with that, and Roboquest absolutely doesn't. Feels really fun to play, just starting out.
Also, shout out to like the cool cutscenes too, because
Yeah.
they're made of like 2D, almost like comic book style art, and it's kind of like goes from one kind of panel to another to kind of give the illusion of movement, right? But what I liked about it is that there's so much like layered sound design in those that they feel a lot more dynamic than if you were watching some other ones, if that makes sense. Because like it's very static. It's like you kind of have a character here, and then they kind of disappear and then show up here to imply that they're moving. But there's like footsteps. There's like nice ambient sound. It's very like textured, and so I feel like it made those what would be kind of static cutscenes. I feel like made them a lot more dynamic, which I thought was interesting, and they were kind of fun to watch. Definitely.
Yeah, for sure. All right, any other thoughts? Music, I know we talked about.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
I thought the music was great.
Yeah, I
So
like
so
that.
A highlight for me.
maybe it's just because I rewatched Tron Legacy recently, which has one of the greatest scores of any movie I've ever seen in my entire life. But I'm really into that techno kind of. It's got this like
Techno
thumping
jams.
techno jams. It's got this like thumping bass to it, and it just feels like it gets you hyped up to shoot a
Hell
bunch of
yeah.
robots. That's exactly what it should do.
Yeah. That's my thing. I'm not that big on the techno jam music. It's not my
Sure.
preferred genre, so it doesn't really hit as hard
Alex, it
for
was
me, and I
right
kind of
there
find
for you to say
annoying at
that's not my
parts.
jam, and you didn't say it, and now my soul hurts. Should know that.
How
Lined
about your
it
Belgian
directly
techno
up for
anthem,
you.
Pump Up the
That
Jam?
was a critical system failure right there, and
Yeah.
I just don't know how to take it. I will say the music
I'm slipping
was
into oblivion.
the music was a bit of a surprise at first because it's kind of got this like lighter tone to it, and then just this like thumping electro music comes in. So at first it was a bit like, oh god, this is not what I was expecting.
Yeah, the art
Um,
style right at first almost hits me as something like kids friendly almost, but then the game is.
Hmm.
I mean, I don't know if it would be bad. I don't remember
no,
anything
no, it'd
being
be fine. It'd be
bad, but
fine for
like
kids. I'd
you know,
say.
It can get kind
the
of
arts.
challenging. Like,
Oh, sure.
Yeah, I was it really right away when I popped in the game. It goes through the tutorial, stupid easy. It asked me what difficulty I want to be on. It's baby mode, easy, less easy, standard, hard, or something like that. And I went, well, standard. I usually start on standard, and then I proceeded to get my ass whooped.
nice.
I have heard in the later stages of the game, it like the difficulty scaling gets a bit wacky, but obviously I can't comment on that because I didn't make it that far. But
Yeah, they usually do with games like this.
even Hades at points,
Hard to balance.
some of those later areas are a bit bullshit.
Yeah.
um,
Any other thoughts?
and
I think this is just like a really solid roguelite. If you're in the mood for like a shooter roguelite like Gunfire, I think really there aren't many games like this. Gunfire Reborn is really the other big one.
is
Uh,
what's that? There's one with like magic. What the heck is that game called?
Witchfire.
Ziggurat.
Ziggurat, yes,
Oh.
which is
I think
also
that's a
Ziggurat is older. That's an older game than
yeah.
either one of the others. I think the second one came out that I haven't played yet, but
I have
Ziggurat,
both. I
the
haven't played
original,
them.
was really
Both.
fun.
I did find myself getting into sort of the same flow as Metal Hellsinger.
Oh yeah, this has that like boomer
sure.
shooter kind of flow to it,
Yeah.
in a really fun way, just with
Yeah,
more
well,
numbers that you
yeah,
do
well,
in
like I
your
said,
head.
it definitely feels like if someone took Doom 2016 and kind of made a roguelike mod that was then turned into a full game is
Totally,
kind of
yeah.
what this feels like. Which is high praise because that game also feels incredible. Um, don't take like if this is a shorter discussion than maybe some of our other like Game Pass entries over the years, don't take how short this conversation is as we don't have anything nice to say because
Pay
it's so
attention to how
straightforward.
few complaints that we've
There's-
had.
There's so
Right.
few flaws. The flaw with it is that it's not my favorite music. I didn't say it's bad. It's just
Yeah, it's like for me, it's just some bits of feedback I'm not a huge fan of on some
Yeah,
of
and
them.
like this is not a
But
game where the story presentation is a huge part of it.
I was not paying attention.
Yeah, like
I did like the story presentation when it came through, though.
it's
It was
very pretty.
cool.
The artwork is great, but I do think it's not. They didn't put a ton of focus into the narrative in terms of like
Well, they knew where
giving
their
it
focus
voice
should
acting or
be.
anything.
knew where their
Everything went
focus
to the
should be.
gameplay, and it's really good because
Oh,
of that.
I want to mention one thing about the gameplay that I don't think we touched on.
Yeah,
You can just like Mario Goomba stomp enemies.
you can
Yep.
Goomba style.
Yep.
And it's
I
a lot
I
of fun.
great.
love
Dude,
I love
combining
chaining between two enemies and just killing them that way, just going back and forth. Oh,
combining
those
Goomba
big,
stomps and then going on like a rail that you can grind on right after that,
yes.
it's over, man.
You know those big like slug enemies that are
The ones with the spikes to
Yeah,
make you
yeah.
stop bouncing on them.
yeah.
Screw those guys.
Yeah. I tried. I was like,
Let
what if I
me
just
bounce on that thing.
I was like, what if I just stand here and continue bouncing on this? No.
Oh.
I
I
don't
kept-
like it.
I had a thought where maybe they were playtesting and a lot of people were landing on top of robots, so they were like, fuck it, let's turn it into an attack. Why not? I could totally see that.
Totally. Okay, Wyatt, that sounds like we're all really positive on this game. Does anyone plan to continue
Absolutely.
playing this or like finish
Yes.
it?
Oh
out?
yeah. Unfortunately,
100%.
with what little time I have on this earth, I am going to spend a lot of it playing that game.
All
Yeah,
right,
I could definitely see myself coming back to that.
sounds
Yeah.
good. Okay, Wyatt, what is your next pick for
Yeah,
Game
so
Pass
this one's-
game?
This one's inspired. I have a group of friends. Ryan and I are part of a group of friends where we watch stuff, usually whatever Star Wars or Marvel stuff is coming out. But sometimes we take a break and watch other things. And so this pick is inspired by the fact that we've been watching Alien and Aliens recently. My next
Oh,
game
I
is
know your
Aliens
pick.
Dark Descent.
This game is
Okay.
fantastic.
I'm so excited.
Hidden gem.
I'm
Very
so
excited.
excited.
We've played a couple of mediocre Alien games on this show before.
Unfortunately.
I picked this one up on a Steam
Unfortunately.
sale a while back, and I was like, "Oh my! How is no one talking about this?"
All right,
I'm
I feel
excited
like
for you guys to see it.
I feel like Alex, this is a good chance for you to jump in with Dead by Daylight. Speaking
talk
of
about
Wyatt
Alien.
just picking,
Did I play
I don't know. Is
Alien?
Dark Descent
I
multiplayer,
don't know. I don't think it
or
is.
is it not? The
I don't think so,
multiplayer game?
no.
That's the tactics game, or like the real
But
time.
yeah, it's a tactics game.
Yeah.
Very cool.
But Aliens in Dead by Daylight. So,
Hey,
There you
there's
go.
your link.
so this one I picked out. I guess I'll start by giving an overview of the game. It's a I don't know. It's kind of the asymmetrical horror multiplayer game.
I would say the one that
players
turned it
versus one
into a
killer.
genre, right?
Yeah, and it's I would say probably the most successful. A lot of the other games in that genre have flopped really hard,
Mhm.
and I'm not really certain as to why. But anyway, this one I kind of picked out because I've been a I don't know a slow burn fan almost. Like I pick it up and put it down. And I've become more and more of a fan of this game, but it's kind of odd, and so I picked it because I like it, and also because I wanted to see your guys' impression of it
Mhm.
as like a brand new player, because it's got just a wall of a learning curve. I feel like
For how simple
Because-
and straightforward the game is, it has got an insane learning
exactly
curve to it.
I think
the
this is like we
gameplay
played.
loop is really easy and the same in every round.
Yeah, because we
But-
played like a couple of test rounds just with the four of us and went through and just sort of learned like the ropes of Dead by Daylight, and it's simple in terms of what you're doing, but there's like a ton of loadout stuff that we didn't
Yeah.
get super far into messing
There's
with.
a ton of loadout
yeah.
stuff, a ton of character stuff. Well, the killer has a bunch of character stuff. You guys, I don't know if anybody went back and played the killer. I know in our test runs, I played the killer, which is my favorite part of the game.
So Nick Cage is a survivor character, right? He's not a killer.
Yes, not a
Okay.
killer. No,
Although that'd be
That would be
I
really
think he
funny
should
if
be
he
both.
was.
I think it'd be really funny if he could be either.
same character model. It's just
So yeah, I was kind of curious as to see what this would be like, because it's a game with a ton of depth, but it's like its basic gameplay loop is really similar in every match.
Mhm.
And it's a very, like, I don't know, gamey sort of game. Like, it doesn't spend much time immersing you in the world or the lore or
Well,
anything.
and
It's like, go out here, survivors, go fix these generators and get the door open. It's going to be the same every single time. Go find the generators, fix the generators, get the door open, and the killer is going to try to stop you every time.
And a perfect example of that for me is when I think of like what makes really good horror atmosphere, I initially think of the lighting, right? And
Mhm.
for like a spooky game or like a spooky themed game, the lighting is very flat. And I'm sure that's there for player visibility because you kind of have to balance it around, multiplayer stuff. And I
Mhm.
I totally understand that. But at the same time, I do kind of wish that it had more atmosphere to it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I find that this game's horror element is like more in the gameplay, like, oh god.
I did really like
The
we
horror
played
element is
a
the
couple
jump
of
scare
different
when you
maps.
consistently screw up the generator QT because it's bullshit.
I
See, I
started getting
find it
good at that at
really,
It's
the
too
really
end.
funny.
fast.
And this is kind of why part of the reason I picked it. I find it really, really funny that you guys found the generator QTE too fast because I was playing Survivor the next day and I was like, I can't miss. I've
I
played
did
it
it
enough now
first.
that like
I
Sure.
did
like
it
I don't
first.
even need to look
During
at the
our
screen. I get the audio cue. I just like,
during our second
I
game,
can
I
mess it up, but
definitely wrapped my head around it the second game. But the first game, at first, it was very like, oh god,
Yeah.
it get me a little bit for sure.
yeah.
No, I much preferred when we were playing on the they have like the Resident Evil police station as a map.
Mhm.
And that one was really fun because it's a mix of outdoor and indoor, and you can kind of know the layout if you played RE games. And that was really cool. The second map we did was like a much more open map, and that one it was kind of just a lot of the same. Like I wouldn't say it's bad. It's just not.
Mhm.
There wasn't a ton of
Yeah.
interest in that map.
That map in particular, the one we got, was really, really open, I felt like. But
I
that's something too that like there's certain killers that are really good on indoor maps and really bad on outdoor maps or the other way around.
with
You
Hmm.
know,
with a lot of asymmetric games, and I feel like this is definitely a me thing. I don't think I would be able to stand it if if I was playing with anyone that I didn't know.
I do feel like a
yeah.
lot of my enjoyment from this game came from when I was playing with you guys. And also, I have
Totally.
actually played this game before. I played it with a group of very enthusiastic um, fans of this game, like to the point they play it constantly and they bought
Oh
me a
boy.
copy on Steam.
Oh my
Like they
god.
just really wanted me to
This
play
game
with
has
them. That's how
die-hard fans.
they're
Totally.
part of that group
Tons of
for
them.
sure, and I
And
enjoyed and the thing I enjoyed was, like, goofing around with these people and, like, joking while we were playing the game, but I don't think a lot of my enjoyment was actually coming from playing the game, because I just felt like as a survivor, you're just kind of walking around and holding left click a lot, and I know that there's a lot of other mental games that kind of go into it when you're trying to trick the killer, but at the
Mhm.
same time, I, like, needed more things to be going on. I was kind of, into the idea
Yeah.
when we were fighting, the Resident Evil killer when Alex was the Resident Evil guy. You had to run around and find, like, cures to, like, cure
yeah,
the, like
there's other killers kind of like that too. The alien from Aliens, there's like flamethrowers you can put down. I
mhm.
do really like that when they do that with one of the characters.
But I felt like and it was funny while I was playing it, I was imagining, like, I kinda wish there were multiple objectives or, like, just more things going on, and then I
Just
realized
like
what I was imagining in my head was the Friday the 13th game.
Which
But
also
you
that's
can't
where
play
I'm
anymore.
Which you
that's
can
where
al-
play.
I'm kind of
also
confused why some of the other games in this genre have flopped so hard. Is that
yeah,
this
especially
game,
Yeah.
like, obviously it's the king of the genre. It's like it did it maybe not first, but it's the one that like launched the genre into
Yeah.
to I don't know, prominence, and it's stuck around the most. It's got all the crossovers now,
I do
and all
know,
that kind of thing. And I don't know why some of the other games in this genre haven't taken off in the
I will
same
say
way
this
because I
one.
feel like they have more evolved gameplay.
I think a big benefit of this was that it was really easy for us to get into a match together. Like that's always a thing we have to
Mhm,
kind of track whenever we're playing multiplayer
mhm.
games for the show is like figuring out how hard it actually is to go through the hassle of getting a match created and whatnot. And there were like some hiccups, but I think Dead by Daylight, like granted the fact that we were on different storefronts, like some of us were playing through Epic, some of us were playing through Game Pass, and some of
I
us were
wanted
on
all
Steam.
my DLC.
We were able to do that totally fine, and like able to group up exactly like we need to, and it's a fully cross-play and everything. And I think that's a huge benefit for these types of games.
And I do think it being more streamlined than those other games probably helped it get a bigger kind of player base,
Yeah.
because it's not nearly as complicated as something, not to say that like Friday the 13th is complicated, but there's a lot more coordination that goes into it, because it's like, oh, you got to grab the, you got to repair the car, you're going to grab the gas for the car, and all that stuff.
I think in ways that a lot of other games are kind of boosted by a streamer and like an esports scene, this game gets that too, because there's such a consistent loop every match and such a like build crafty nature and teamwork when you're on the survivors. It sort of lends itself towards that more competitive, like esportsy environment.
Plus, I think what helps too is that a lot of those games are based on like, oh, this is based on Friday the 13th. This is based on Killer Clowns from Outer Space, because they're developed by the same people, which I didn't know until very recently.
This is based on
It's based
every
on like,
horror movie.
exactly, like
Yeah.
like those are based on one horror IP, ones that haven't even been relevant for like 20 years or way more in when you're talking about Killer Clowns from Outer Space. But like with this, it's like, oh, we're gonna throw in everything. Like they even had Michael Myers at one point. They even had Jason at one point.
Oh, I'm sad we didn't get a
we're gonna have
chance for me
Alien,
to
we're gonna
bust
have
out my Michael Myers build. I have a sort of like a meme build for Michael Myers that makes him completely silent.
it's like we're gonna have Alien, we're gonna have D&D. Why the fuck
Yeah.
not?
There's
We're
a
gonna
D&D
have
event
Castlevania.
going on right now that just like you get a random chaos loadout every time where it just like shuffles loadouts around and you get skin like D&D skins. Why that's in the game I don't even know, but also Vecna's my favorite killer, so I'm not going to complain. That's also more of a like a recent thing. The game originally came out with just its own characters and has since had a ton of, it's kind of a live service game, and so it there's whatever
It's
every few months
the
it churns out a new
Fortnite of
DLC.
it's
asymmetrical
turning
horror games.
it's turning out to be the Fortnite of horror IPs.
Yep, and it's really funny too. Sometimes you get into match and it's, I'm playing Vecna from Dungeons and Dragons trying to kill Laurie Strode from Halloween,
Bill from Left 4
Leon
Dead,
Kennedy from Resident Evil, Nick
Laurie Strode.
Cage,
and
Laurie Strode, who they did not get the face the likeness rights for.
Sure.
Or for
That's
Ripley.
for sure. And
Or for Ripley.
like somebody in like a Christmas outfit or something.
That
I
high
think you kind of give up
visibility
at that
Santa
point.
suit means he's a
With Christmas
jokester.
outfit. I had like a decent amount of fun with this. I do think this is a game that I wouldn't play on my own, but I would play if someone was like, "Hey, let's play. I want to play some Dead by Daylight." Right? Like this is a thing I think I'd be pretty willing to play with friends, but I don't see myself playing it in my own time without other people that I know.
I think that's also part of the reason I like Killer more than playing Survivor. Is because like it's a solo experience. Every match.
Yeah, like I totally see I could
and I'm
play
gonna
the
kill
Killer
people.
fine.
Yeah.
But yeah, I do think it was fun to play this as a group because I think we had a lot of moments that were like, oh no, what are we doing? What's going on? It lends itself to the chaos of having everyone in a voice call. I think especially having the killer in the voice call as well makes it really funny.
Oh yeah.
Because you're like kind of taunting each other the whole time, which is great.
It's definitely a case, at least for me, it's a case of like, I think this is good, but definitely just not for me. I think I need more things going on, but I definitely understand people preferring this more streamlined approach than to something
Honestly,
like Friday the 13th.
I don't know how I got into this game because I feel like I also started this game and I was like, this game makes no sense and it's like stupid. And I don't know. I like just enough times around Halloween or something. I was like, well, let me just get in there and play a match or two until finally something slowly but surely like clicked. And I was now I'm like into the like, ooh, what's the build gonna be and everything.
Yeah. Totally. What other people think? Is anyone else going to keep playing this? Is this a thing that if Alex asked us to play with it, would people play it with him again?
If Alex asked,
what if I asked you to play Killer Clowns from Outer Space?
I mean, instantly. The name alone.
if I were to get my hands on a free copy of that game, I would try
That
it.
feels like a game that
Just to
someday
try
will be
it.
an epic free game or something.
Oh boy.
I got
I don't know, what
what's
was that,
it
a
called?
69 on Metacritic?
It
That's
was
hot stuff.
69. I got Evil Dead for free, and can't even hardly get in a match in that game.
Huh.
All right. Well, Alex, what is your next Game Pass game then that you want us all to play?
You know, I'm kind of, here we go, I'm flipping a coin here.
Can we have more than one multiplayer game or like party game per?
Yeah, totally. Just
I
keeping in
assumed
mind
other
that,
people
like,
were going to pick one, so I went with the
I
single
have
player
one in
game.
mind. So we'll
yeah,
see how
keeping
that
in mind
goes.
that if we pick too many, we may not have time to play them all. But
Yeah.
if we do, we would.
I mean, RoboQuest has co-op, and and that
Oh,
never
yeah.
materialized.
Huh.
Is anybody else picking a cozy game?
No.
Mine's
I don't
Okay, then
think
I
I'd
think
call it
I will
that.
pick. I'll pick a Homestead Arcana.
Okay.
Ooh, okay. Okay.
All right. Very fun. Okay, I'll hop in next with Donut County, which I think this game's only about an hour and a half long, if you get really into it. So I figured it was a good Game Pass game. It's basically kind of like reverse Katamari, where instead of a Katamari being a
Yeah.
thing making things bigger, you're a whole trying to swallow up as many things as possible. And there's a goofy story between a raccoon and a girl talking about what they're doing, and the raccoon starts sending people into holes and whatnot, and then his quadcopter gets broken, and everyone's happy because he's putting people into holes. Game sounds incomprehensible. It's really just a game about being a hole and moving it around, and that's really
It's
it.
fun.
I will say what threw me off initially was like the connection between the story and the characters and the actual gameplay. I was horribly confused.
But exactly, it's a donut. He runs a donut cart. He's selling people holes, so he's delivering holes to people.
Yeah,
Donuts
it's the
have holes
donut
in them.
hole. Why isn't this clear to you, Wyatt? Go on. Why don't you understand the Donut County deep lore?
Listen, I'm sorry.
Or the
okay? I'll just
or
go.
the
I'll
raccoon
just
who
go.
likes
I'm
to
so
text
sorry.
and whose
I'm so
favorite
sorry.
emoji is a duck. I mean, come on, this is basic stuff.
Yeah, basic stuff. The fact that you can send a duck whenever you want as an emoji in the text minigame and just keep doing it is great.
I think it's really funny because the text minigame, the other person will usually send one back.
Yeah, they'll respond with a duck, or it'll be like, I know at the start if you pick duck when the raccoon asks you how your day's going, he'll go like, "Oh, I hate the honking outside," and then that conversation goes a little bit differently because you responded with a duck instead of the regular continuing to type responses. And I just think this is a good time game. This is like a nice, if you got an afternoon that you are feeling down or otherwise, it's rainy outside, you want to just sit, relax, play a game that doesn't take a ton of attention. Donut County is like a nice cozy experience, and it's also very, very short. This is I think a perfect Game Pass game because this is like a sub 2-hour game. I think when I originally had played this, I finished it in I think 90 minutes, just
my
about.
God.
So it's not super long. It really is like a one and done game.
Every time you say this, I feel
This
like I'm
is-
playing the games wrong because I'm at 2.5 hours and I made it to, I think, the 4th stage.
But it's possible that I played something. Wait, on Donut County?
Yeah.
Wait,
I don't think you're at the 4th stage, Alex. I think you might be at the 4th day or something. Because the stages are incredibly short.
Sometimes, Alex, I want you to stream your experience playing these Game Pass games because sometimes I have so many questions.
So
time
many
to
questions.
beat on the time to beat on the Game Pass page here says 1 hour main story, 2 hours main plus extras, 2 hours completionist.
I have found that those literally have never applied to me.
Alex is going for that
I
completion.
think 1 hour is kind of speedy.
1 hour
that,
speedy.
but
You'd have to be skipping dialogue for that to happen, I think.
it's for sure rounding down.
But yeah, overall, I
wasn't
have a really
surprised-
good time with Donut County. And this is just an excuse for all of you to get a game that was just very fun to play, and I don't think anyone would
fun.
buy
This
of their
one,
own volition.
I'm gonna continue it. It's probably gonna take another 2.5 hours.
You know, earlier in the episode when we were like, somebody said, "There's not." It seems like we're not saying a lot about this. That's kind of how I feel about this one. I'm like, it's good. It's
I mean,
just,
it is a
It's
game
short
where
and
you
sweet.
move a
Fun
hole
game.
around. That is the gameplay.
There's-
There is
yeah.
not another. There's no like extra thing there. It's
You've
you move a
probably
hole
played
around
this less polished as like a shitty mobile game,
and hole get
here
big.
it is with a goofball story.
Yep.
what I
goofball
really
story.
enjoyed was how they tried to like uh, uh, create twists for things falling in holes, because eventually you have to start doing you
Yeah.
have to start interacting with things a little bit more. Like you eventually start launching things out of the hole, or like, oh, if
The snake
there's
hole.
something with fire, if you like put a
You
campfire
can
in
get
the
like
hole,
force the
and
hot air
then
balloon to rise.
Mhm.
or and then you put in corn, a bunch of popcorn comes out. If you
Mhm.
I
put
do
two
like that
bunnies,
they start.
if you put two bunnies in there, a bunch of other bunnies
A
pop
bunch
out.
of other buddies. Yeah. Oh,
They do introduce that pretty
oh.
quickly in the game, which I like. You know, it's not something they save for like later
Yeah.
levels.
And another reason that I also picked this game is that the developer of this is the director of Neon White as well. That's the thing he went on to do afterwards. So I don't know, very good game. Neon White's really fun as well. So
Is this leading into a segue?
surprisingly, that would have been smart of me to pick Neon White, but
Is it on
I have
Game
another
Pass?
game that I want to throw at everyone afterwards. Any other thoughts on Donut County? Do people think they're going to finish it?
I'll probably finish it just because it's short. I'll be honest with you, like the kind of story dialogue bits are cute, but also the writing for it is kind of like, I'm not expecting like an Oscar worthy story out of this, but I just feel like the characters talk in a way where it wasn't. I'm. Let me put it this way: the story is more engaging because I want to know how a giant hole in the ground fits into everything, more so than like what the characters are actually saying. You know what
Totally,
I mean?
totally.
I love Joaquin Phoenix's voice acting as the raccoon. I don't know what you're talking about. Academy Award worthy.
All right.
Yeah, on that note,
Wonderful. Yeah, Donut County, nice and simple game. Not a ton
Yeah.
to mention here. I would just recommend. This is one that if you have Game Pass, I'd say just go play it because it's very short. It's a fun little distraction for a while, and it's got a great art style. The art style is great through and through. Something we hadn't mentioned yet. Okay, so for my next pick, I'm gonna leave it up to you all. I have one of two options.
Oh no, this again.
So either a roguelite narrative thing, or a game that everyone forgot from last year.
I kind of want to see what a game everybody forgot is.
yeah, that's kind of intriguing.
I want to know both of these, but I'll
I
do
can
the
tell
one we
you what the
forgot
other
as
one
well.
is after the fact.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, the game everyone forgot from last year. I want everyone to play Atlas Fallen: Reign of Sand.
Ah, there we go.
Oh.
I had a sneaking suspicion.
Yep.
Huh.
Which I really like that game. I think it's very fun, but it totally, completely forgotten last year. It's not on my award list for anything.
Huh.
It's really kind of like
I'm
middle
not
of the.
even sure I realized that this game came out.
It might even be from 2 years ago. I don't know if it's from last year or 2 years ago now. Oh no, yeah, last year.
8/21/2020. That wasn't even that long ago.
Wasn't even that long ago. Totally thought it came out earlier than that, but that just goes to prove my point right. So
These guys made.
Oh yeah, that looks like a
Atlas Fallen.
perfect thing to fall underneath the radar. That's a nice 7 out of 10 looking thing.
These guys also made.
I love a 7 out of 10.
Oh, what was that? They did like the futuristic Souls-like
Surge.
thing. Surge, yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
yeah, this is Deck 13.
Oh.
And they also did the original Lords of the Fallen, or Lord
They've
of the Fallen.
done a couple of games that I like a lot, and they also publish a bunch of stuff. They're also a publisher now. But yeah, generally I like Deck 13 games. They're typically not like crazy complicated, but Atlas Fallen's got a cool aesthetic. It's got like the sand fantasy thing going for it, which is fun.
Ooh, there's
Fantasy.
co-op, too.
There is co-op. Yes, it's almost like kind of Monster
Ah.
Hunter-y in the co-op part. So some fun stuff to look at. All right. Alex, take us home.
All right. The game that I picked for us these past 2 months, because holiday things, was Chants of Sennaar, which is the only second ever game that I've seen that's this sort of specific type of puzzle style genre. It's a language puzzle game where you are a stranger thrown into a unfamiliar land where you don't speak the language. You got to figure it out.
Mhm.
And that you can use context clues and conversations that you're overhearing or trying to have with people. There's shop signs and things with imagery that you can find as well. It's so fun.
There's like
I love.
murals too.
Yes. Yeah, and then it's
Yeah.
slowly piecing together that, and you can get clues to what words can be, and they can be put together in your journal in fun and interesting ways. And I've either been playing the game incredibly wrong at first, or this is a neat mechanic that you can get stuff wrong unintentionally, but then be able to figure it out with
Well,
Yeah,
you
thinking
can
with
get
other
the
things.
annotations wrong, but
Mm,
Yeah, you can't
there's
get
a
the
way in your
answer.
journal of like
yeah.
confirming what the word
Yeah,
is, and
they've
that's
got
when you
like a little
definitely
question mark
know.
to show that you may not know what it actually is. And even if you do like guess it correctly, it still has a question mark when you're annotating them.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I've
'Cause there's, like,
definitely
one or
gotten
two words
stuff
I got
wrong because
right.
I was like certain on a word for like a long time, and
Same, and
then
then I was
somebody
super
said something.
off.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
somebody
feel like
said something, and I was
this
like, that doesn't fit at all.
Wait,
this
what?
is a game that I think is another one that's supposed that the completion thing, like the playtime says it's short. It's gonna take a while
Not for
for
me.
me.
Not for me.
Oh boy, what was your guys' first stumbling block? Because mine, embarrassingly, was the cardinal directions.
I haven't even gotten the cardinal. What? I don't know
The
what you're talking
cardinal
about.
directions? You're
Yeah,
just saying words now, Alex.
yeah.
What?
There's
Like north,
maps and
south, east,
compasses.
west?
Yeah.
I've never even
Oh.
seen a map.
How much of this game did you
What about
play,
what about your
Alex?
compass?
I don't have it. What do you
Compass?
mean? What
hell?
about my compass?
Compass.
Clearly, you went to a different place than I did.
One that really got me was, now keep in mind before I tell this story, I am in fact a moron. So take everything I'm
As
going to say with a
all
grain of salt.
all of us are.
Hey.
So
So take that with a grain of salt. But when I was in the market, right, there's like the music store, there's like the person who's
Oh, this
making
one
pottery,
really
that kind of
confused
thing.
me.
What got me was the music store had the actual words were both instrument and music. I thought
yes,
one of the words
yes.
was sell or like give or something like that. So I
Yeah.
was horribly confused for a very long time.
Mhm.
Would you think
Well,
so? Because it's a market,
I'm
but then I
thrown
also guess
off.
it's implied because it's a market.
Yeah. I didn't expect them. I thought they were gonna have music instrument as one of them. I didn't think they were gonna do
The thing
both.
that
'Cause I
got
feel like it would've
me,
been a little too
so I
confusing.
vividly remember this because I was like trying to figure this word out repeatedly because I was in that same section and I had like
Mhm.
in my own annotations figured out, okay, music, instrument, and pottery, like the
Pottery, yep,
pots.
that was the other one.
So
Yeah.
when they bring up the journal page for you having learned these words for you to like confirm them, there's an image of a pot. So I kept trying to put the word for
Yeah.
pot in that image, and I
Yeah.
was like, wait, did I get the music thing wrong or something? It turns out they didn't want you to put pot for the image of the pot. They wanted you to put to make, which is one of the other
Oh,
A
symbols.
little
that's why I
unclear.
could never get that one
I
then.
I
was
do
so
think
confused
that actually
until I
leads me
like
on to a
figured out.
question. That actually
Oh, does
leads
it
me on
have
to a
hands on
question.
the pot in that
Yeah, it has
image or
hands on
something?
the
Yeah.
pot, and then I was like, okay, it's a verb and not
That's why I
the
never
pot.
got that page right. I thought I had tried like every combination.
So that actually
Damn it.
brings me to a question that I have, which
Yeah.
is when you're selecting words for the images to like confirm what the word is. Say you get 2 right and you get 1 wrong. Currently, as the game is, all it says is like, no, this isn't correct, and it doesn't tell you whether any of them are correct or incorrect. Do you think the game should tell you, hey, you got this one correct, but not these two, or should they leave the whole thing
I think they should
fake?
leave the whole thing. I think it's
I think it
important
should leave
that you have to
it.
like mess with it.
I
Mm.
love getting stuff wrong in this
Yeah,
game.
I think that it would really help in a case like that where like
I think the problem with that
pottery and
specific
to
case
make
is
was
not
unclear.
like that mechanic. It's the image is a little unclear. It's like that image
Yeah.
needs to be more explicitly like crafting a thing.
I think that if it told you precisely what was wrong, it would be too easy just to like brute force like an answer, which I did at one
Yeah.
point.
That's how I brute force
Oh,
the
there were a
pot
couple
thing.
times where I was
literally,
like,
I was like super
select,
confident about the other two, and so I was just like, I'm just gonna try every single symbol that I haven't decided
like
to know
6
what
words this could be, so we're just gonna.
Yeah, we're just gonna go through the list.
Mhm.
But yeah, otherwise, I really liked Chants of Sennaar. I think this is a really, really solid like puzzle game that has a really interesting take on it. I am curious how far people got.
Donut County was silly calm. This is like really relaxing calm for the ambiance.
Yeah,
and just
totally.
a slow burn puzzle.
I thought it was an
which I don't
incredibly
disagree with.
fascinating concept too.
Which I don't disagree with, and I think this language puzzle is really well done. Speaking personally, I was like full gamer pose the entire time, like hunched, looking at every single clue because I didn't want to miss something. This is totally me. This is not the game's fault. I felt like I was in the middle of a test the entire time. Like it was that same like you're sitting down for your SATs and you're just like, and you're like stressed the entire time and trying to be overly observant on everything. Totally the way I'm playing it, and not really how the game wants you to play it. But that's just it. Like triggered something in my brain where I felt like
I
I
was like that
taking
at
a test,
first
and I
because
was not.
I would think I was traumatized by Tunic in a way. That's a great game. I like it very much. But it's a game where you have to like, if you really want to dig into things, you have to be taking notes and like really actively kind of noting things down. So I was doing that for Chants of Sennaar, and like I vividly remember I was in the church section. And then you realize your
journal does it for you.
I like was very careful. I wrote full notes and like took images of every bit of that puzzle. And then as soon as I finished it, it pops up a journal page telling me exactly what I need. I'm like, oh, just wasted like 10 minutes putting together this well-organized journal.
It feels good taking notes for a game again. I love when those happen.
It is a lot easier on you than something like Tunic is. But again, my brain was in full test-taking mode the entire time, which did prevent me from enjoying it more than I feel like I would have. Again, once again, that is totally on me and not really a fault of the game so much.
There was some real minor stealth segments, but you never had to do any language learning in those.
Kind of weird for some of them.
But like I feel like for the most of the game it was super forgiving on like being able to take your time to figure something out, to backtrack, look at something again, go back, whatever.
What'd you guys think about the lack of a mini map? Because I felt like it was, I absolutely fine and on, like suitable to. Oh my, I can't speak. I think it was good that you didn't have a mini map to add to the sort of confusion of it, but also the confusion did get annoying for trying to backtrack to certain.
I think a map screen would have been kind of nice, at least to where I played. I didn't have a map screen.
That's something I started to take notes for and draw out a map.
It does get pretty expansive as the game goes on, because at first you think it's going to be kind of linear, and then it really opens up very quickly. And it was kind of fun exploring around, but I do think a map screen would have come in handy in some sections.
I think it would have been nice if they'd found a way to like do one, and it's possible this is further in the game. Like I don't know, but it would have been nice if they had like someone handed you a pamphlet or something, and it's a untranslated map, almost Tunic style and whatnot, and that gets like translated as you go around or something. I didn't struggle with navigation.
As you go. Yeah, maybe he like draws in his journal or something.
Totally. Like I didn't struggle with finding things, at least as far in as I was. But I imagine had I played everything that I played in one long session. Had I not done that, I think coming back I would have been confused. After a day or two, I would have been like, oh wait, where was the garden? Like where's this thing? Like it points in this direction, but I have to pick the right things to go through. So. Yeah, I kind of stopped when I finished that section and was moving on to I think it's the frontier is the next thing that I'm doing, and so that way I had a hard delineation of okay, I did everything in this last area, and then I'll do everything in this area when I come back to it, and that way I'm not confusing myself with what I have to do. Other thoughts about Chants of Sennaar? Art style's
really
gorgeous.
striking.
Oh
I
yeah.
was just about to say, very striking. I loved how it's got a lot of like maroons and oranges and stuff, and it's at least in the section that I was in, it very much deals with like you're in this temple, but there's sun, and so I felt like I really like the kind of themes kind of going in parallel with the art style there. I thought was very nice. Looks a
Yeah.
little rough when
I
you
thought it
zoom in
was-
on things.
I didn't even know you could zoom in.
Yeah,
but
I never tried that. So
Did you ever pick up the coin in the tree?
yeah,
Like so things like that where like you zoom in and you can definitely tell things are untextured and it was like
Oh, yeah.
designed to be looked at from a distance, basically.
White hates art styles.
I do.
That's-
Everything
that's what I'm
everything has to
learning.
be photorealistic. I need to be able to see every single pore on every character's face, or the game is ugly and I will not play it.
Perfect.
So
Good head toss. Really doing your best, Glinda there.
God.
All right.
I
Oh.
found that this game was pretty readable too. Like there was never any time, and because it was pretty easy to sort of like ping what's interactable and stuff.
Yes.
There wasn't much time where I was ever like lost or.
The only time I
passing
got
things
really
by that I
like
needed to
I
care
say
about.
lost, but this was of my own volition and not the game. Is that I stayed in the cemetery way too long trying to figure out the puzzle there before having any of the information you need to figure out. And I was like,
Yeah,
oh well,
I
you gotta
think I
do this,
was in
and
a
it's based on
spot
this
where I was,
gravestone. And
There was definitely a spot that I was like really trying. I'm like, what the hell is this combination? And I'm like, I don't even have most of these words, and I don't even know what I'm trying to solve. So
yeah, I also tried to solve the church puzzle immediately, and that was a problem because I
that's
hadn't
the
found
one
the
I was thinking
lens
of.
that you need. And like, yeah, I do think this is definitely like, if you feel stuck on a puzzle, at least so far, that is because you don't have the solution. Like, you haven't gotten a thing that you need yet, generally.
Go and explore.
Which I like
Find
is a
some new
like,
words.
the game is always treating you it's treating you as if you're smart and letting you mess with things, but you probably are missing key information. Yeah, is it really interesting? I overall really liked what I played of this, and I think this is, of the ones that we played, the thing I'm most likely to finish. I had already finished Donut County before, so that doesn't count, but this one I think I'm probably going to end up finishing soon. Like,
I
Oh,
think this
yeah.
gives me a little bit too much stress and to keep going. I'm already stressed enough as it is, and it's not really the game's fault. That's my fault.
this was like
but-
totally zen for me.
See, exact fucking opposite.
Perfect.
I'm so sorry to the developers.
That's what
I'm
we
so
do this
sorry.
for.
I know that's not your intention, but I can't help it.
Didn't you pick Aliens: Dark Descent?
I did. Yeah.
Yeah,
That's
That game
supposed-
is stressful as hell.
That's supposed to be stressful. That's different.
Wyatt likes self-imposed stress
Literally,
that he
I
chooses.
literally
Stress that I
uninstalled
understand.
that game because I was getting too stressed. I'm like sweating
God.
at the keyboard.
See, listen.
Wait, you said this was a tactical game?
Yeah, it's like a top-down,
it's
like
like-
real-time
I
tactical game.
am going to suffer.
I know.
That
I
is
know.
what
I
you
don't
do
have-
This
this
is my
for.
mini
I
punishment
can't-
for Alex.
I really can't think of any other game that I've played that's real similar to that, but we'll get into that once we play it next month.
All right. Alex, it seems like we all liked your pick this month. What's your pick for next month?
I have picked a game that is very streamer baity for us to all enjoy
How
and
fun.
rage over.
Oh, dear God.
We're gonna be golfing with friends, baby.
Oh, it took that long for Golf with Friends.
I keep, yeah, I'm surprised it hasn't come up already. I didn't even realize it was on the list, I think.
I've
Yeah,
never heard
I
of
think
it.
straight up we would have picked this earlier if any of us realized it was on Game Pass. So,
I've never heard of this before.
this is
Oh, really?
this is a
What?
popular game. Yeah.
Total
Oh,
goofball
cool.
game. Just
I don't really follow these streamer bait games, I'll be honest with you.
Wow.
Fair
Get
enough.
your stuff together, Wyatt. Why aren't
know.
you watching Marbles? All right. That's the deepest streamer lingo that I know.
I don't even know what that means.
It's the end of our Game Pass games. We did it. We talked about the Game Pass games for this month, and we announced our games for next month. How is everyone feeling about some shoutouts?
I'll do a shout out.
Well,
I'll do a shout out. Like I said, I've been listening. I watched Tron Legacy recently. That's a great cozy action movie for when you just made dinner and you want something to watch while you eat dinner. It's not really going to change your life or anything, but it's a good looking movie with a cool looking world and that absolute killer score, which is my actual shout out. If you have not heard Daft Punk's Tron Legacy score, first of all, shame on you. Second of all, go listen to it right now. It kicks so much ass. It's so good. That's my shout out.
I've kind of got a similar one, I think. Yours inspired mine, at least, because I didn't have a lot going on this week. But last year, what the hell am I talking about? Last week, I think I shouted out just being able to play Dungeons and Dragons in person with friends. I've been doing a lot of DM prep this week. I'm really excited. I'm really into it. And I watched for what has to be like the 7th time for me, the Dungeons and Dragons movie. And
Fun movie.
it hits that same sort of thing that I was talking about. It's not gonna change your life, but I love that movie. I think it's a ton of fun. It's great to just throw on. It's a fun little adventure. I don't know if a lot of people saw it. It's good though, especially if you're a Dungeons and Dragons nerd.
How fun. All right, I'll give mine next. Dynasty Warriors Origins is the best game that Omega Force has made in a long time. It's really, really good, and not just like a good Dynasty Warriors game. This is a good video game, and that's an achievement for Dynasty Warriors to be like. I now will not say that Dynasty Warriors is a 7 out of 10 franchise. It has bumped itself up to at least an 8.
we're
Dynasty
so bad.
Warriors Origins. To the point where I see a very real possibility that if the game is as good as it continues being, it might be on my Game of the Year nominations list of like what I pick. It's really good so far. I do think there's a lot of other games I'm really looking forward to this year, but Origins is like, for what I was super worried about not having like the whole roster of Three Kingdoms heroes and generals and whatnot, and only playing a set character. Completely forgot about that as soon as I started playing, and it's just a really fun, like, almost Three Kingdoms JRPG in a way, which is really cool.
Wow.
And you murder thousands of people, as always with Dynasty
Everyone
Warriors.
wants to either sleep with you or hates your guts. No in between.
Well, okay, everyone acts like they want to do one of the two, regardless of if they actually do. But there's a moment in this game where Guan Yu speaks to you and goes, "I want to etch the lines of your face into my mind," and I don't know how I can take that. That isn't sexual. So, and the line delivery sounds like it. So I don't know how to react to that. Guan Yu,
Listen,
I'm down.
he got you flustered, all right? He got you nice and flustered.
Well, the great thing is it's the end of the conversation, and then you walk off with him into the distance.
Oh, it's implied.
And there's like no decision making that happens. It just happens.
Oh, no.
It's really funny.
Oh shit.
I'm not sure that's the way they intended that scene to be read, but it's very, very funny because that is absolutely how it does get read. Yeah, that's my shout out.
I love that so much.
Okay, not even leaving room for a pause at this point. I have so many cookbooks from the holidays.
Nice.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
We got
Nice.
which surprisingly, yeah, I was fooled by the cover. I thought, okay, yeah, no, that's just a nice like piece of salmon. Most of this book is about uncooked fish in some form or another.
Hell yeah.
Still good. We got every season is soup season.
Why are you shopping for clothes in the soup store?
High school. Bowls and broth. They show you how to make almost every kind of noodle I have ever heard of by scratch in this thing. It's talking about bone broth where you can locally source the marrow. This book is crazy. It's way too advanced for me. I'm going to try it anyway and fail miserably.
Great.
you'll
I'm
learn.
just glad I clearly made Wyatt reconsider his life choices halfway through that.
It's that kind of joke where we're like, huh, that's funny. And then like for some reason it just makes you start laughing.
You have to think about it for a minute. You have to think
It
about the
just
soup
like
story.
it just like snowballs.
All right. Was that all of us? Did I skip you, Alex, or what?
No, I'm good.
All right, perfect. That's our show for this week. Tune in next time for us to talk about something. It'll be a thing. We'll do something fun, I'm sure. And then finally, in February, Brett is rejoining the core cast for a while because he has finally gotten Sundays to be, or Sunday nights at least, to be off. And can make the show again, which is going to be a ton of fun.
He's
I'm
coming
sure we'll
back,
have
that bastard.
more JRPG takeover talks all the time. That said, everyone has a good week, and we'll talk to you all next week. Talking about games, things, doing stuff.
We'll probably talk about Switch 2.
Shoving
We are going to
pies
talk
in
about
my
Switch
pie
2.
hole.
Might be sooner than next week.
Gotta strike it while the iron's hot. It's probably not going to be made of iron, though.